Good evening. This is CJ with the Gold Sports Talk, discussing the big contracts. Just going to look at a little bit of a snapshot at Dirk Nowitzki and what he has done, and whether or not you think that this is something that is right for a player to do. Basically, to be okay with pay cuts. Now, just before we get into that, we do know that a lot of us work, our daily jobs. And we desire to make more, regardless of what position you are in, whether you're entry level, whether you've been there for a long time, whether you've gotten promoted. You always feel like you should be able to get compensated a little bit more for what you do. Very rarely do you go to your employer and ask for a pay cut in order to keep somebody from getting fired. For example, if you're on a team or in a particular team of employees, and they're going to let go of somebody because there's not enough money for the company, there's never a time when people go up to management or to the employee and to the employer and say, why don't you all cut us? His salary is $50,000. There's 10 other people on this team. Why don't you chop our salaries by $5,000 so you can keep this person around? That's not done. But in sports, that's being done and being applauded. Now, this is part of the cost of this happening. Now, this is from the Business Insider. It's titled, Dirk Nowitzki has sacrificed as much as $194 million in discount contracts for the Mavericks. Now, we do know that for the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, he has not been maybe on par as what he should be as a player. He did have a season, even a couple of years ago where he actually played pretty well. And as a franchise player, as a guy who is literally going to be the face of the Dallas Mavericks for at least probably the next 10 to 20 years before somebody else would have to be on that level and come on the scene and take his place. It's similar to basically waiting on a James Harden when Hakeem has retired. That's literally what is happening at this point when you look at the Houston Rockets, if you want to give an example. But what Hakeem has meant to the Rockets since that time is huge. Even jersey sales continue long after these players retire, so there's still money being made by these teams promoting these players. Okay? Now, when it comes to Dirk Nowitzki is a legend in Dallas, the city of Dallas, and pretty much throughout the NBA nation because of his championship. And he's also a legend over in Germany as well because he is of German extraction, and he's played on their national team. So there's a lot of money involved in having a guy of this caliber on your team. Now, we're going to go and look at just some of this article. It says Dirk Nowitzki has once again given the Dallas Mavericks a big discount, agreeing to a 2-year, $10 million contract. That deal comes after the team declined their $25 million option for the upcoming season. Now, that was a team option. They declined their option, a move made after they consulted with Dirk Nowitzki, suggesting he was on board with a much lower salary. Now, if you know anything about the salary cap, the reason why a lot of these players that are role players that are getting paid a lot of money, and especially when you notice they're going to teams that don't have big contracts, is because of the fact that there is a floor, meaning that there has to be a minimum that a team has to spend on their active roster. So that's the reason why you see some of these huge contracts coming up for players that are not really deemed by many media pundits or those that are in the media circle or basketball experts as being worthy of those contracts. Dirk Nowitzki did not do what Kobe did. What Kobe did is literally every year in his career, when he could get a max deal, he took a max deal. He didn't take a pay cut. He took the maximum of what he can get all the way up until the end, even if it meant that he was going to delay the progress of the Lakers for a few more seasons. Now, with Dirk Nowitzki taking this cut, where is the Dallas Mavericks going? Where are the moves the Dallas Mavericks made when they made him take this cut? There are no moves. There really are no real big moves that you can really say that they made. They did sign a few free agents. They did draft Dennis Smith. They did give money to Harrison Barnes. But what type of squad are they developing that's even possibly going to make the playoffs in the West that he had to take this discount? Okay, so why not just let him get the $25 million, let him play his 20th year, and let him retire? But guess what? Dirk Nowitzki has been doing this for some time, and it's costing that much money of $194 million. Now, I'll say this. Let's just hypothetically say he deserved a max deal up until let's say up until the end of the 2015 season, right? If he deserved that up until that point, we're going to just go ahead and knock off $30 million over the last 2 seasons. We're basically saying that he's basically anywhere between 150 to 165 or so million dollars. He's basically given discounts to Dallas to sign players. Now, among those years had to be during the championship run. That would make sense. Now, he did do that during that time, and a lot of people try and act like Dirk Nowitzki played with nobody. Dirk Nowitzki played with some seasoned veterans who were multi-year all-stars and that still had a little bit left in the tank, that were mistake-free players that allowed them to play in a system that was effective for them to destroy the Lakers, who were stacked, okay, with the Twin Towers, with great defensive players, very good two-way players on that team, might add you, with Kobe in his prime, and they destroyed them. So everybody acts like that was a team that was not good, and somehow it just beat the Miami Heat, although I do have some things concerning why the Miami Heat lost, which I will not get into today. But he's been doing this for some time, and is it really worth it for a player to do this? Okay? Now, we're going to go into some of this aspects of the deal that he got over time. Now, as you read down, it says, as many have noted, this is the third time Nowitzki has given the Mavs a considerable discount on his contract. But in reality, his discount actually started before that. In 2006, Nowitzki had 2 years remaining on an original rookie extension when he agreed to another extension worth $59 million over 3 years. If he had not taken that deal, he would have been eligible in 2008 for a 6-year, $158 million max contract as a 10-year veteran. Okay? Now, you think that Mark Cuban, being a billionaire, being a businessman, understanding CBA contracts, didn't understand that this was going to happen? He very much understood. And at some degree, Nowitzki's agent had to know about this as well. This is the reason why it's not a good idea to agree upon an extension sometimes at the time that you're offered it, especially if you know your value is a lot higher. Now, when you look at the situation with Harden, which we already talked about, that was one of the reasons why the Rockets tried to lock him up for that extension, which will basically extend him 4 more years on top of the 2 years he had remaining on his current deal, is because of the fact that if they didn't do it, they felt that they might be put in a position where they might have to pay him $50 million a year. The reason why, there are many of their TV contracts go into 2025 season, so there's a lot of money that's still out there to be made by the NBA. Another reason, the global growth of the NBA has continued to grow. You got international players that are coming from all over the place. Then factor in that they're going to allow ad revenue to be made off of jerseys. So just like you see those teams over there in Europe, those soccer teams, and even those basketball teams, I'm saying soccer for the Americans. Excuse me if you're offended by that, all you footy fans globally. But, just to make it easier, they already have a lot of contracts with different companies in which they're making money. And that's one of the things that the NBA did was to allow that, in part because of the fact that it's worked very well overseas, and it is a good concept. The classic jerseys that we saw in the past are going to be done away with. They're going to actually have these ad spaces on there. And I think in some part, it's a good idea if it's going to be beneficial to the teams and the players in terms of increasing salary cap, allowing teams to keep and get maximum talent, and create an NBA where maybe you might have a team that has 2 very good players on each team and create some level of parity, even though you may still have super duper teams, because some players will be very good during their rookie deals. Some players might be had on discount because of injury situations or uncertainty, and they may blow up and show themselves to be better players, similar to you've seen with players like Karl Anthony Towns, who's on a rookie deal, but he's an all-star caliber player. He's one of the best players in the league right now already. Then you go into the Curry deal where he had 4 years, $44 million because of his ankle injuries, but he was healthy, and he became one of the top 5 players in the league. So some of those things are going to happen. Those are outlier situations. Now, as far as further on, him losing out on that big extension, it really hurt him. Now it says here, if we assume Nowitzki would not have opted out of the max deal early, his next contract would have come in 2014 and we'd have been eligible for 5 years. 2014, he would have been eligible for a 5-year, $239 million max contract through the 2018-19 season. Now, this is the crazy thing about it. Dirk Nowitzki and the CBA deals, and when he came in the league, was actually matching up with him to get these huge contracts. In fact, these contracts would have been the biggest contracts at the time had he signed them. Now, can you imagine in 2014 if Dirk Nowitzki signed a 5-year, $239 million contract? That would have been insane. Now, peep this. Would there have been a team that would have been offering him that deal? No. But could he have went in 2014 where he still had a little bit of game left in him? Could he possibly went and signed a 4-year deal, maybe for $190 million? $180 million? Yes, he probably could have. There would have been teams that would have said, we would give you a 4-year deal. And know that probably on the last 2 years, you might not be as good, but we believe that you will somehow make us competitive with the team that we have now over the next 2 seasons during that deal. And hopefully you're healthy enough to be at least our 3rd best player on that deal as well if we get 2 other studs with you. See, this is the type of stuff that happens, and this is the type of stuff that LeBron James is very much aware of when he signs these different deals, because a lot of the increases is based off of how much money you're making and how much more you can make percentage per year based on your last deal. That's why it continues to increase each contract. They get paid a little bit more money than before. So it's crazy when you think about it, Now, when you go into it, I'm just going to scroll down. It says here, these 2 max contracts would have pushed Nowitzki's career earnings to $446 million by the end of the 2018-19 season. Now, $194 million more than the actual earnings of $252 million, which he's had now. Now, let's just hypothetically say he wouldn't have got all that money. I would say he probably lost, really in real estimation, probably around $100 million to $130 to $140 million when you really look at it, because of the fact that he did not do those things, and he was basically giving them almost a discount by not playing the CBA agreements and timing them the right way where he could have. That's something that other players like LeBron know, because LeBron, I believe in this next deal, he is either going to bankrupt, he's going to either get all the loot that he can in a 5-year deal from the Cavaliers, or he's going to go and get a big 4-year deal from another team as well. And I think that when you look at the kind of contract that Harden is getting, Harden benefited from coming in at a certain time and signing those different deals and extending himself, and now he's going to make a ton load of money compared to like what Dirk Nowitzki could have made. Now, ultimately, with money, it's how if you have that much money, it's how you basically invest it. And at the end of the day, that's how people look at it. But trust and believe that anybody that can make $200 million, $52 million, and possibly could have made $400 million, trust me, they would prefer to make $400 million in the grand scheme of things. But fans don't want to look at it that way because they don't mind, and they protect owners. You got people that they have a mentality of protecting the owner's money and protecting their business versus going for the player that actually is the business. So this is a chart, that they showed projected wise, and this is something that every player that's in the league is going to have to very much consider whenever they're going into the negotiation table for their contracts. So that's pretty much it. Want to just kind of talk about Dirk Nowitzki, what he could have made. Just seen this on Business Insider. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I'll have the article in the description or in the comments posted up. So hey, that's pretty much it with this one. We'll definitely talk more about this type of issue moving forward, because it is going to be a pressing issue as the collective bargaining agreement expires.